Hello. Someone asked me today a follow up question to the live that I did this morning. And that follow up question was, how do you know when you're handing off responsibility and when you're just having a conversation? And I would say that, first of all, um, it depends on the stakes of the situation that you're having the conversation about and the level of fear you have around taking responsibility for the situation, for the consequences of a decision. Further, I would say, are you asking the person in the conversation to bear witness, or are you asking for advice? Because as I addressed in the earlier video, when you're in that embodied yes, when you're in that fuck yes, you don't need to ask for advice. You can state a clear desire. A clear desire comes out naturally with ease from the energy of the fuck yes. It naturally follows to be able to state a clear desire. Like in the example that I was talking about in the video last night or this morning, I was trying to enlist people to tell me where I belonged, right? Now, if I had been a fuck yes, that this is where I belong, I would simply state a clean desire. I would say, I want to come there, you know? And my first clue, aside from my body, that I'm not a fuck yes about that, is that I'm not stating that clear desire. And I noticed that. It's like, oh, if I can't state a clear desire about this, then I'm still not a fuck yes. I need to send this decision back to the kitchen because it needs to keep cooking and keep unfolding. I think one of the more catastrophic ways that this has certainly played out in my life is in romantic relationships. When you're not a fuck yes, but then it's like, well, do you want to go kayaking? Sure. Do you want to eat some pizza? Okay. Cut to a year later, and you're full of resentment and wondering why. And then realizing, well, there was never a fuck yes as the foundation here. I just kept stumbling along from one okay to the next okay without there ever having been the foundation of a fuck yes. And that's why, and the identity turbine will be happy to be like, sure, sure, go eat the pizza, go for the paddle, do the thing. Why not? Hey, why not? Give the person a chance, right? And that's fine. It's great to have compassion for people and be open to new experiences, but also to be aware of what you're doing in that situation. And if you find yourself, like when I found myself in a relationship like that, I found myself almost always calling my friends, being like, I don't know, like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And as I said in the earlier video, if it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. And that is something that my teacher, Perry Chase, has totally drilled into my head. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a no. You send it back to the kitchen to keep cooking. It's not yours yet. It might not be. And when you navigate by the fuck yes and you shut down that identity turbine and you only follow the fuck yes, it's very hard at first because a lot of those relationships, jobs, inclinations that you had that you were just sort of doing habitually can no longer be sustained. And there can be so much grief in that and so much fear. And under that, sometimes also so much joy. This release of finally navigating via your vital life force. I was talking to my group the other day about how when when you stumble along and you have these choices that you make that are disconnected from your fuck yes, they're disconnected from your all of your life force energy, and so they're over here, you know. So all these choices that you've made have accumulated over here, and yet here is your life force, and here are your choices, and in this chasm in between is where depression lives, it's where anxiety lives, it's where existential dread lives. And then you wonder why you have these things. Because it can be very painful to peer into that chasm. It can feel like, oh shit, if I look into that chasm, I might fall in because like the pull of it is giving me vertigo. As well it should, you know? That vertigo, that anxiety, that depression is your call back to your life force. It's that call back to the fuck yes. It's that call back to genitals, heart, mind, alive, aligned, and ready for service. So if something is presenting itself and you find yourself trying to force it to happen, or like, oh, what would I have to do to make this happen? Let me set this as a goal and make a list of what I can do to achieve it, to grab at it. I'm going to grab at that brass ring. I'm going to have it. If it were really yours, there would be ease in it. There would be so much ease in it. And that is, again, such a hard thing to trust. But once you do, and one fuck yes folds into another fuck yes, and then, oh, look, as you're going along the path, oh, there's another fuck yes. And the fuck yeses just accumulate like a Easter egg hunt, you know? And one fuck yes after another gets put in your basket, and you're like, oh, this is the life that belongs to me. This is the life that was waiting for me. I don't have to keep crossing this chasm and going back and forth between the accumulation of my half-hearted choices and my life force. And why do we not do that? Why do we build this other side of the chasm instead of just staying connected to our life force, being in our power? Well, to me, when I have done that, it's because I don't want to be responsible for this thing. If I know that I'm only following fuck yeses, I know that they are absolutely, intimately, and completely my responsibility. And sometimes that can feel big and scary. If I'm only following this accumulation of half-hearted choices, I'm only kind of half responsible for them. Especially if I'm seeking advice or asking other people what they think I should do, or uh, dating someone just because they like me. Do you know what I mean? And now, am I even really responsible for being committed or devoted in this relationship? Well, not really. So then why do I have such anxiety and existential dread and waking up in the middle of the night? Well, I've created a chasm between my fuck yes and my life, between my life force and my life. So yeah, how do you know when you're foisting responsibility on another person for your actions and when you're just having a conversation? Well, you know it in your body. And if you don't, it's a really good idea to sit super, super still and hear the difference between the deafening hum of the identity turbine, full of external orientation, conditioning, half-hearted choices, and that beautiful upsurge of eros that just runs through your entire system. And we learn not to even feel that anymore. We learn to not trust it. But we must, really. If we're to be free, if we're to be happy, if we're to be of service, if we're to have the life that really belongs to us, if we're to step away from the chasm and be able to stand on the edge of it and look down, because there's no more space here. There's like a river and flowers and trees and lovely things start to fill the chasm because there is no gap between our life force and our life. And yeah, are there complications? Are there complications in following that? Are there losses? Yeah, complications are auspicious. Don't resist them. If you feel yourself encountering resistance, just stop. Stop needing it to be different. Just wait. Lots of things reveal themselves in the ripeness of time. They're usually your things. Thank you for joining me for this late night Q&A. If you have any more questions, put them in the comments and I'll address them in another video. Good night.